What's up, everybody? I'm Rick,
And I'm Anna.
and welcome to our review of the 2020 movie Mank.
Come have fun with us and don't forget to subscribe.
Mank is a Netflix movie that was released on November 13, 2020. In this film, 1930s Hollywood is reevaluated through the eyes of social critic and alcoholic screenwriter Herman J. Mankiewicz as he races to finish the screenplay of Citizen Kane. So, one thing I think before we start our conversation to preface all of this, we did not see, neither of us has seen Citizen Kane.
Right, and it's so soon, right?
Yeah, in the list
In
of
the list of
movies that
movies.
we're supposed to watch, it's 1941. But yeah, neither of us have seen Citizen
Yeah.
Kane yet, and so I'm sure there are a lot of things in this movie in terms of references that
That we didn't get.
totally went over our
Right.
heads.
But on the other hand, I think it will be interesting when we do get to watch Citizen Kane because we'll remember this and we will realize like, oh, that was that there. It will be like reversed.
The
right?
reversed effect that they were going for, right? One thing that we did get though is a lot of these 1930s Hollywood references because
Yeah.
we've seen a lot
So
of movies
many.
from the 1930s, and so a lot of the name, the actors, the characters, we were like, oh, we know this and this and this
Right.
reference, and so that was really nice. Anna,
Yeah.
what did you think of this movie? What did you like, Mank?
I did like it. Here's the thing. I like this type of movie, right? This style of like storytelling technique where the story is fragmented and you have two timelines to
Yeah, we're moving around in time. Yeah.
exactly.
I think, and here's the first thing, right? But because they mention it in the movie as he's writing the script, I think this is a Citizen Kane thing,
Right.
right? Because
Yeah.
he writes the script, and one of the first comments is like, "Oh, people won't get it. It's happening in different time frame,
Right.
right?" So I think this movie was trying to emulate that too. It's probably something that was popularized by Citizen
Yeah.
Kane,
Oh, I see. Yeah.
right? And now with our view of 2020 people, we're like, this happens all the time. They always do that, right? But this movie here was not referencing all the other times they did it. It was referencing maybe the first time or the most popular time
Right.
they did it.
Another thing that I want to say is that I like how I've watched this movie, and as we said, it's part of the story is about the making of Citizen Kane, the writing of the script. I don't feel like I got spoiled at all.
Yeah, that's interesting. But separate from Citizen Kane and its
Yeah.
history with us, the movie itself, what
Right.
did you think of it?
So I really liked it. I thought that the characters were very interesting. I thought it was interesting how nobody's motives were clear. Not in the sense that you wouldn't understand, but that nothing seemed to be black or white.
Yeah.
I also liked how it feels like the story doesn't tell you things in general. They don't do that thing where the character just says something that is obviously meant for the public to understand the context.
Yeah,
know?
exposition.
Exactly. Like there's no exposition dialogue. There's
Yeah.
no.
There's some of it, but yeah, better rooted into the regular dialogue than in other movies.
I feel like a lot of the times you understand what's happening while it's happening, because that's how it's meant to be. Like if you are dropped in the middle of a story and you don't know what the story is about, that's how you would feel. You're like, wait, what's happening here? And this is how the movie made me feel, but in a good way. It feels like you're catching up to
the
their
events,
lives,
yeah.
to the events. Exactly.
Yeah. But I think a lot of it also has to do with the fact that these are quote unquote real events, right? They are based off of real events. We can get into the minutia of what's real and what's not, but as with many biographical movie, like they have to dramatize it in some way in order to make a movie, an interesting movie. I also like the movie. I have some criticism mainly in terms of Mank's motivation towards certain things that I thought you say they don't explain it to us.
Right.
Sometimes I felt like they're not explaining it enough, right? Because there's this whole political subplot, right, with the election and the governor's race and all of that, which seems to try to, answer one of the central questions of the movie. And here I have some information about that. I guess we can get into that now. One of those central questions of the movie is, why did Mank write a script containing cruel caricatures of Randolph Hearst and Marion Davis when he was known to have been friend with both of them, right?
Right.
That's one of the central element of the movie, right? Why would he do something like that? And the movie tries to explain that through the flashbacks, and we get the story of how, you know, there was this governor race in California and everything that happened around that. Because you could have said it's the propaganda thing, it's the fact that one of his friends ended up killing himself
Because of it.
because of all of this. But before all of this happened, he was already very confrontational. So is it that he was such a Sinclair fan that he was disgusted with his Republican friends? That doesn't seem to be the case. And in real life, by the way, it was not the case. He was known to be more conservative. I'm not sure exactly what was the origin of the problem. I understand where it led,
Yeah.
right? The propaganda he was against, his friend dying, of course, that
Affected him.
a lot. So from that point on, I understand that he had a grudge with Horst. But before that, why? I just felt like the movie didn't make me connect with his motivation.
Right.
Everyone asked him. His brother, Marion, comes asking him. His wife comes asking him, why did you do that? Right? Because not only does he involve Horst, but he involves Marion and this
too, yes.
script too. And he never really answers. And it feels like the movie is telling you it's because of the campaign, but I didn't feel that. Other than that, I really enjoyed the movie in general. The acting was great. The directing was great. And let's take a look at some of those actors and directors, by the way, to see who exactly are we talking about here, because we've been naming a lot of people. So the movie was directed by David Fincher, who, by the way, got a nomination for Best Director for this movie. We don't have the results yet, but we shall see.
We will see.
Yeah. David Fincher's father, actually, Jake Fincher, wrote the script in the 1990s, and David originally intended to film it in the 90s with Kevin Spacey and Jodie Foster as the leads, but that never came to fruition, and then the project kind of went to sleep before it was resurrected in 2019.
40 years later. Wait, 30 years later. That's a lot.
Movie stars Gary Oldman as Mank. He, in my opinion, was fantastic.
Absolutely so. He's shown throughout the movie in different situations, right? We have the, jolly fellow in the chronological beginning of the story.
Yeah.
And then we have the more like drunk version of him.
A bit more bitter, yeah.
Right, and more bitter, yes. And then we have him like towards the end where he's like more... the chronological end, so actually where the movie begins with him starting to write the script, where he's more like reflective and, thinking about everything that went on, and it feels like he's trying to sort through his feelings, and all of these different personalities of himself that he's showing us, actually of the character that the actor is showing us, are just so like beautifully constructed, I feel. Everything from like his gestures to the manner in which he speaks and holds himself, I feel, changes throughout all of these different stages of his life, of his character's life. And I love that so much. Like, it goes so deep. His acting in this movie, I feel, goes so deep.
Yeah, Gary Oldman is always fantastic, and almost anything he does, and here I think he outshines himself. He is, by the way, nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actor for this role, so we shall see if he gets that one. Next up on the list, we have Amanda Seyfried as Marion Davis. She is also, by the way, nominated for Best Supporting Actress for this role. She's there sporadically in the movie, or supporting actress, of course. But I think that every time she's there, she makes an impression, right?
I feel like she managed to capture that aura of 1930s like diva cinema starlets,
Yeah.
The way she moves, even the way she like turns her head, the looks that she throws towards like the camera or other characters. It's got that 30s feeling, and considering that we've watched so many 30s movies, I can recognize it, It's very interesting to see it in a 2020 movie.
We also have Lily Collins as Rita Alexander, the secretary who works with Mank. I think she's a bit more layered, right? Maybe not more layered, because Marion's character is also deep, but we see kind of more one facet of her, while
Right.
Rita's character, there's different element to her storyline and her interactions with Mank, which in my opinion makes her a bit more interesting as a character. What did you think of her?
I thought her character was interestingly presented because, I mean, there's this story, of hers with her husband, right, who disappears. And then in the end, she finds out that he's actually alive and he's gonna come back to her. And I mean, I don't know if that's something that actually happened, and maybe that's why they put it there, like it's, inspired from reality. But I felt like it was a little bit shallow. Like they put that story there seemingly to give her a story, for her not to just be the girl writing down Mank's script.
Yeah, you're right. I feel like it's from a few different directions, right? It's like you say, to give her something to do, something to say, something to be about, but also to give us historical context
Right.
for like the period of time the movie is happening in, right? And also to present us with this element at the end where she feels like Mank is a jerk and all of that, and then the other lady's like, no, actually he saves people, right?
Right.
And so that she can relate in some way because her husband is also in the war, and so she's affected by that, right? So she's, in that sense, she would serve more as a way to develop Mank than a way to develop her own
Exactly.
character. So yeah, I could agree with that. Yeah, that's right. Movie contains a lot of famous historical character, one of which is Louis B. Mayer, played by Arliss Howard. I thought it was just
Mayer.
funny to
That's so
see
good.
Mayer
Yeah,
there. Yeah,
that's true.
I don't know. I didn't think we would see him in this. I didn't know what this movie would be.
He's not there. He's only
It's
there.
not there that much, yeah, but still, it's interesting.
Right.
Just, it's kind of seeing the beginning of it all, right?
Yeah, that's true. And it also makes you think, as a cinephile in general, to see these characters on screen in a movie or represented, in a movie, makes me think, is this really what he was like? Because he's not an actor. He wasn't, you don't get to see him in old movies. You don't get to see the real him, except for photos. So it makes you wonder, like, how did they come up with his character, like his personality traits?
I mean, a lot of people must have known him. That one element about cutting the salaries, right? And then he promises to give back the money, but doesn't. That happened for real. So I'm guessing like they have information about how he was and try to mimic that as much as possible. Right. Another real character, historical character, is William Randolph Hearst, played by Charles Dance. Charles Dance always...
I mean, it's hard. It was pretty hard for me to not see him as an...
Always easy to hate. Not to hate, but to see as the villain, right?
Yeah.
As he often plays the villain. And so here, as soon as the character appears, I'm like, you're on Meg's side. You're like, oh, this guy, right?
Yeah.
And then we, of course, have a lot of other Hollywood icons that are portrayed throughout the movie, including Irving Thalberg, Norma Shear, Charlie Chaplin, Bette Davis, Clark Gable. A lot of people in this movie, sometimes just in the background, sometimes they have lines. Thalberg has a more prominent role, but it's so fun to just see them, right? And see them talk about them.
Right.
And maybe the biggest of all in terms of, big Hollywood character linked to this movie is Orson Welles, which is also portrayed in this movie. He doesn't have that much of a central role when you think about it.
Barely. We see him in 2 scenes total.
Yeah. Speaking of Orson Welles, I said earlier that the movie tries to answer a few questions, one of which is why did Mank write that script? And the second, I feel, is who wrote Citizen Kane, which is a debatable question even today. The movie definitely takes a stance.
And says that Mank wrote it.
Mank wrote the whole thing.
All by himself, completely.
Mm-hmm. So here's some information here about that whole debate. When RKO opened the movie in 1941, the programs included photograph of Welles as the one-man band who directed, acted, and wrote the movie. So in a letter to his father afterward, Mank wrote, "I'm particularly furious at the incredibly insolent description of how Orson wrote this masterpiece. The fact is that there isn't one single line in the picture that wasn't in writing from and by me before camera was turned on. So basically saying, I wrote the whole thing.
I wrote it completely by myself.
Mm-hmm. Wells responded to some of those comments saying, God, if I didn't love them, I would have hated him. God, if I didn't love them, I would have hated him after all those ridiculous stories. Persuading people that I was offering him money to have his name taken off, that he would be carrying on like this, denouncing me as the co-author, screaming around. It did not go well with Orson Welles.
I mean, you know, when you hear two stories like this, one of them is obviously lying.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Like, I wonder, you know, after so much time, isn't there a way to know that? Like, people would find the original manuscript if it's true that Mank wrote it or something, you know?
I think it's very difficult to establish that, no? Especially, like, when you have a contribution, even if it's, like, 20% versus 80%, you're still co-author, right?
Right.
So, like, it becomes very hard to establish it.
But, I mean, if his contribution was just, like, editing
the script,
then you're not really co-author. You're the editor.
Yeah. But who knows? Who knows? So Mank says he wrote the whole thing, and Orson Welles says he co-wrote it. And, of course, both of them would have stuck to their stories considering the success of the movie.
Right.
Right. So they want to be credited for that.
I wonder that in these circumstances, on what basis did the movie take this stand?
That it was Mank?
That it was Mank who wrote it.
Mank and Orson Welles both won the Academy Award for writing this movie. So, I mean, good for them in the end.
Yeah.
This movie about that other movie, so Mank itself, is nominated for 10 Academy Award.
Oh, 10!
The most nomination for this year.
That's a lot.
I mean, Hollywood loves movie about Hollywood, so I'm not surprised. So those nominations are Best Picture, Best Director for David Fincher, Best Actor Gary Oldman, Best Supporting Actress Amanda Seyfried, Best Cinematography for Eric Messerschmidt, Best Costume Design Trish Somerville, Best Production Design for Production Design Donald Graham, and Set Decoration Jane Pascal, Best Makeup and Hairstyling Gigi Williams, Kimberly Spiteri, and Colleen LaBeouf. Best Sound Ren Kyles, Jeremy Mullard, David Parker, Nathan Nance, and Drew Cunnin, and Best Original Score Terrence Reznor and Atticus Ross. So yeah, lots of nomination. We don't have the results yet, but like we did with the previous movie, Anna, what do you think should win the category they're nominated in? So that's a bit of a difficult question, of course, because we haven't seen all the movies yet.
Yeah, true.
But as of now, right, with the two movies.
So as of now, I would think, you know, with movies, like I said, with this narrative style, I always feel like director kind of deserves it. You know, I mean, guys, deserves it, but I mean, again, I don't know what he's up against. So.
Yeah. I would go for Gary Oldman for Best Actor, probably.
Yeah, I agree. I think the costume design is pretty impressive, you know? I mean, given that it's a very known material to them, you know, like 1930s Hollywood fashion.
Probably go into their grandmother's...
and they have a lot of, materials to get inspiration from. Still, I think that it was done beautifully. So, yeah, I don't know. That's where I would stand. Yeah.
Well, we'll see when we get the results. Now, of course, Anna, for each of the year, we rank the movies. But before we get to that, do you have any final thoughts? Something we haven't talked about? I know this is a long movie. There's a lot of elements we haven't mentioned. Is there something else you want to...
Yeah, the movie is long. I guess that's one thing. I think, again, maybe because of the storytelling technique, this is a really captivating movie. I mean, in the sense that it feels like you get immersed into the story as you're watching it, you know? And I feel like not a lot of movies manage to do that. I feel like it deserves a special appreciation just for that fact alone.
Yeah. And in terms of final word, I would say I really liked this movie. I stand by the fact that I'm still not sure about Mank's motivation for the stab in the back on Marian's part mainly. Like I didn't believe in the motivation, or rather, I didn't feel like the movie explained it well enough. But other than that, everything else was great, especially the performances and just seeing all of these people that we were seeing in movies and now they're being played. That was really nice, really fun.
Right.
So on to the ranking. Every year we rank the Best Picture nominee from. Every year we rank the Best Picture nominee according to our likings and preferences. And as of now, for the 93rd Academy Award, the 2020 movies, we've only ranked one movie. So at number 1, The Trial of the Chicago 7. Where do we put Mank? Before or after?
I would put Mank at number 2.
Yes, I would put Mank at number 2.
Although
also.
I have to say, the only point by which I would have ranked Mank above is the way they put together this fragmented story, because the Trial of Chicago 7 does that too, right? Like half of the story is told in flashbacks and inserted in between the main storyline, the trial storyline, exactly. I feel like Mank did that in a more interesting way. I don't know how to explain it. The jumps and the correlations with the flashbacks, I feel, are just done better. But that would be like the only point where I feel like Mank would have been better in every other aspect. So I feel like Chicago 7.
I would push back on even that point, right?
Yeah.
I thought that the Trial of Chicago 7 also did it very well. Like I really liked how it was always integrated as something related to what they were talking about during the trials or outside the trial, right? So for example, if at the stand there's this police girl talking about how she infiltrated them, then we see the flashback, right? And then it kind of gives dynamism to the whole thing.
Like
right?
I'm not saying that they didn't do it well there. Obviously, they did it very well. I just feel like Mank did it more in a more interesting way.
Yeah. But regardless, we both agreed that Mank will go at number 2.
Yes.
So our new ranking is number 2, Mank, and number 1, The Trial of the Chicago 7. So that was it for a review of Mank. But tell us what you thought of the movie too by telling us in the comment section below, or by going to our website to rank the movie. The link will also be in the description box below. We've watched this movie, and of course, as part of our bucket list goal, to watch every movie that was nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Award from 1927 to 2028. This is movie 109. So we're slowly walking forward, and there's a lot of movies on that list. We're still very far, but slowly we're getting there. And our next movie will be Minari. So if someone is doing the goal with us and wants to follow along, watch that and be ready for our next review. And if you don't want to miss that review, I invite you to subscribe to this channel if you're not subscribed already. Like this video if you did. And don't forget that if you yourself have a goal or dream that you want to realize, just like when Mank wanted to write this script or Orson wanted to do this movie, I don't know who did what. All you have to do is take that first step.